Chapter 5, Increasing Relationship Points, 1. Your likability with Javier Azrahan has increased by 2 points. Current RP with Javier Arahan, -29. You have earned 36 RP by improving relationships with main characters. Current RP, 36. Investing RP will allow you to develop special skills. What is this now? A message floated mid-air in front of him. Somehow it didn't feel unfamiliar. Come to think of it, I saw something similar when I first arrived here. It was when Javier first woke him up. He heard a voice saying something about RP then too. I thought it was just a silly dream. But that didn't seem to be the case anymore. No matter, it was baffling. He wondered what this RP and special skill were all about. Likability? Improve relationships with the main character? Lloyd rapidly moved his eyes. He confirmed the message in front of him again. It wasn't hard to understand. My likability with Javier went up, and our relationship slightly improved. Therefore, I can use this RP I earned to develop my skills? Lloyd stopped walking and Javier turned around to him. Hey you. Yes? What were you thinking just now? I'm not sure what you mean. Didn't you just make a judgment or comment about me in your head? Something like, I thought this guy totally sucked, but it turns out he's not a complete piece of trash. I never thought that. Yes, you did. I did not. Really? You didn't think I was a complete piece of trash from earlier? Yes, Javier said with a sincere expression. There is no person who's pure trash in this world. No matter how much of a mess they are, everyone has a slight sense of humanity somewhere deep in their hearts. That's what I believe. That's very comforting. To reiterate again, Javier had a talent for straightforwardly and carefully making his every word be felt to your bones, no, to your very marrow. Even before you realized it, that is. TCH, let's just head home. They started walking again and returned to the manor. He sent Javier to his quarters and closed his bedroom door once he was alone. He opened the message related to skills in earnest. The way to open it was simple, skill window, he tries just to be sure. Loading the skill window. Damn, it really works. He thought events that seemed like a fictional story had been taking place since he came into the novel. However, what was happening now seemed even more fictional. Lloyd admiringly looked at the skill window in front of him. Log of special skill that can be developed. Survey skill to identify terrain and space detected. Soil mechanics skill detected. Hydraulic skill detected. These can be combined into a basic surveying skill. RP needed for skill development equals 15. What? Surveying. A survey was done before designing a structure to identify the topography and location of a land. As the word itself suggested, it was one of the basics of civil engineering. That was because surveying was the start of construction. Yet I can develop surveying as a skill? It seemed that his existing knowledge and talent significantly impacted what skill he could develop. Lloyd confirmed this thought while looking at the continually emerging messages. Material mechanics skill detected. Static skill of handling stationary objects detected. Structural mechanics detected. Water supply and sewage theory skill detected. Experience and skill in CAD programming detected. The abilities above can be combined into a basic design skill. RP needed for skill development equals 20. Not only was there surveying, but there was also design too. These were all things he tirelessly studied in school. Lloyd tightly squeezed his fist without realizing it. Awesome. In any case, he was planning to start construction soon to resolve the Baron's debt and earn a fortune. In the future, he was even thinking of creating a large-scale construction business. What he needed most were precise surveys and designs. But there wasn't any equipment available here. I couldn't even dream of a GPS surveyor, and designing was even more hopeless. He had to draw the design for the heated flooring system by hand. At that moment, he missed the CAD software he conveniently used in South Korea. However, the skills equipped him with all of these things. Lloyd made a bold decision. Let's develop both the basic surveying and basic ensign skill. He invested 15 RP for now. The response was immediate. Basic surveying skill has been developed. Skill name, basic surveying. Consume a small amount of mana. You can use your eyes to calculate the exact figures of a land's terrain, area, and altitude. Additionally, you can get a rough insight on the properties of the soil and water and make up a topographic surface area that can be measured at once, 100 square meters. Is this real? Lloyd pinched himself. He couldn't believe he could survey 10 meters all at once with his bare eyes. He could even grasp the properties of the soil and bodies of water within range. It almost felt like cheating. Let's first check it out. He opened his bedroom window. Fortunately, his bedroom was on the second floor and he could see all of the manor's courtyard. He used his skill while looking around the courtyard. Basic surveying. Surveying will begin. The message rang out loud. At the same time, part of his view changed into augmented reality. 10 meters by 10 meters. Countless numbers and data points appeared above the given area. Amazing, it was as if he had turned on a 3D map in his head. While he was at it, he invested 20 RP into developing the basic design skill. Basic design skill has been developed. Skill name, basic design skill. Consumes a small amount of mana. You can visualize your desired design drawing in the air through three-dimensional forms of dots, lines, and surfaces. Any modeling errors in the drawing will be automatically corrected. Volume of structure that can be projected at once, 1,000 cubic meters. Let's test this out too. He immediately used the skill. A virtual pitch-black space formed in the air before his eyes. Inside it, he could freely manipulate the 3D dots, lines, and surfaces. He could even recall the land's topography he identified just now with the basic surveying skill. It was like being able to limitlessly use a futuristic three-dimensional hologram version of the CAD design program. Oh man. This is nuts. He was swooning at this point. Is this what it feels like to become the god of architecture? Although, the area of surveying and design is certainly still a bit small. That issue will naturally resolve as I develop more skills in the future. However, Lloyd felt slightly upset. It would have been nice if I had a skill for heavy machinery or construction equipment. If he did, he could have even made his own construction equipment. But he did not have that skill. He was a civil engineer, not a mechanical engineer. Lloyd wistfully licked his lips while looking through the skill window. Then his eyes suddenly focused on one spot. What's this? Random summon game. Send RP to pick a summon. A strong and unique summon partner will provide their unwavering loyalty along with a wide range of skills to their master. That was the introduction message written down. Is this like some sort of mobile lottery game? There are all kinds of things here. I want to try it if possible. But I can't because I don't have enough RP. 1 turn equals 50 RP. TSK, as if. He had used up most of his RP while acquiring 2 skills just now and only had 1 RP left. I need to collect more RP. He already knew how to. He needed to win the favor of the main characters around him to improve his relationship with them. There were actually many ways to accomplish this, especially at this time. It was at this exact time. He suddenly remembered the first part of the novel The Knight of Blood and Iron. It was during the time when Javier was still working at the Baron's manor. Lord Frontier was severely struggling with the debt collectors who came by every day. That might happen today too. He called the maid and quietly asked. The maid nodded their head. Ah, yes, young master. There were guests who came looking for the Lord earlier. As I expected. Why else would there be a guest at this time? Lloyd smiled. Perfect timing. How great of them to come right when I need them. Another way to earn more RP came to his mind. Lloyd left his bedroom and headed toward the Baron's office. Black Club. So what are you going to do now? As he reached the front of the office, an enraged voice leaked into the hallway. Whether it was because the old manor wasn't soundproofed well or the uproar inside was larger than he thought, he could only tell it was the latter once he opened the door. "Lord, how much longer are you going to delay this? Hasn't it been over 5 days since the promised date?" "He's right. We won't stay still if you keep dragging this on." There were 2 debt collectors who came. A pudgy man with a potbelly and a bony man who had a sickly pale complexion. The 2 men had their hands on their hips and their chins raised. Whereas Lord Frontiera, he was sitting in his chair, sighing deeply. His drooping shoulders and face made him look like a guilty criminal. Well, his feelings are understandable. The pot-bellied man and the bony man who came today were vicious loan sharks. They never gave up on collecting money. They were the type of people who even made money by selling off their debtor's corpse if they died. Of course, they meet their ends while pulling that stunt when Javier slashed their throats. That event would occur in the distant future, 1 year from now, after the Baron's suicide. TSK, how did they end up borrowing money from people like them? He clicked his tongue without realizing it and took a step forward. He spoke in a subdued voice. "No matter what anyone says, Lord Frontiera is the owner of this manor. If you came as a guest, please be polite." They must have noticed his existence only then. The 2 loan sharks turned their heads towards him. The Baron lifted his head. "Lloyd?" He spoke in a surprised voice. Lloyd slightly lowered his head to him. The pot-bellied man tilted his head and interrupted them. "Who are you?" "I am the eldest son of this family." "Eldest son?" "Yes." "Aha, the eldest son with the particular manners? I am a bit famous thanks to that. Is that why you are so rudely interrupting our discussion like this?" "It's for the honor of this manor's owner, the Baronet family." "That's a problem." "Why so?" "The owner of this manor will change soon. Time will tell whether the owner changes or not." He smiled. "Show me your warrant now." "What?" The pot-bellied man furrowed his eyebrows. Lloyd sneered even harder at him and asked, "Don't you have a warrant?" "What warrant are you asking for in this situation?" "The Royal Family and Nobility Act, Article 3, Clause 6. All nobles of the kingdom, regardless of status or rank, have appropriate rights and honors as vassals of the king. An aristocrat may exercise their right to protect their personal interests." "What?" "I am saying, strictly according to the laws of the kingdom, entry into the residence of a noble family without a warrant is considered trespassing under aristocratic law." "Are you saying we are trespassing?" Did you finally understand?" He clapped his hands. In reality, no one followed this law. However, it was one that clearly existed. He suddenly remembered the delightful scene at the beginning of the novel The Night of Blood and Iron. It was immediately after the Frontiera couple's suicide. A funeral was held at the Baron's mansion, and the 2 loan sharks had come. They caused an uproar, demanding the corpses of the Baron and Baroness because they needed to sell them. Right then, Javier pulled out his sword. He asserted the law and slashed the 2 in one stroke. Afterward, Javier was brought before a judge but luckily didn't receive any punishments. It was because the law did indeed exist, and the 2 loan sharks had come without an invitation and caused a large uproar. Of course I can't just kill them since they aren't acting as badly right now. But it was the perfect excuse to kick them out. Take care then. I hope you learn some manners before your next visit. Do you think you'll get away with this? Time will tell the answer to that as well. The 2 snarling loan sharks looked ridiculous. They left the office trembling with rage. Lloyd sent them off with a burst of mocking laughter. That was when he finally heard Lord Frontiera's urgent voice. "What have you done?" When he turned around, the Baron's face was completely frozen. Well, it was understandable. After all, the least they could do was appease the spirited debt collectors, let alone provoke them and kick them out. A bitter laugh escaped him. Those hyena-like bastards. Painful memories from South Korea resurfaced in his mind. His parents who became victims of insurance fraud. The debt collectors who came every day. His father who faded away day by day under their constant harassment. I won't ever be put in that position again. The more you weakly coward, the more you'd be pushed around. That was especially true with these bastards like them. However, the Baron was in a tough situation. It was much more difficult than you'd think to be confident during hard times. No, it was almost impossible realistically. Answer my question. What have you just done? The Baron's face had crumpled somewhere along the line. He probably believed his clueless son made a huge mess of things. It was better to show instead of tell in these situations. He took out a pouch from his arms and placed it on the Baron's desk. There was a heavy jingling sound. Don't worry. What? This should be more than enough to cover this month's interest. Resolve it with this. Things will quiet down for the time being. What is this? It was the down payments from the heated floors he sold today. However, he did not explain it himself. There was someone else who, at least for now, was more trusted than him. If you're curious, ask Sir Azrahan for the answer. Lloyd lowered his head to the Baron and quickly left the office before he could get stopped. Phew. He finally released the breath he was holding. He shook his head once to brush off his pounding heart. He didn't head toward his bedroom. He went toward the training hall in the back instead. The training hall was full of moonlight instead of people. He briefly strolled while waiting for about an hour. The alert should come right about now. Just when he had the thought, the alert he was waiting for came. Ding dong. Your likability with Arco's Frontiera has increased by 6 points. Current RP with Arco's Frontiera, -14. You have earned 60 RP by improving relationships with main characters. Current RP, 61. Perfect. He clenched his fist. As expected, the Baron seemed to have called in Javier. He must have heard about Lloyd's recent doings through Javier's explanation. It's going as planned. It was less effective to speak of your own good deeds. This was even more true if the good deed came from a guy who previously acted like nothing more than trash. Good job, Javier. Javier likely gave a cold and objective explanation which would have made the account even more believable. Thanks to you, I have 61 RP in total. It had paid off to purposefully wait in the empty training hall. Finally, it was time to draw his first summon partner.